Hey, Truck, how long did you take to land a job after graduation? My partner's been looking for a marketing job. Dude, what a great segue into our next segment. I'm so glad you brought this up. This article is Gen Z is the most rejected generation in history. The ghosted generation. From college to dating, no one in history has been rejected more than Gen Z. I read this whole article. It's pretty fucking long, and I want to kind of summarize it for you and also get your thoughts. In that, I think it's very true. And obviously we've talked about some of the aspects of it, but it's laid out pretty starkly here, which is basically that in three main areas. The first one is dating. The second one is college, and the third one is applying for jobs. The number of opportunities is perhaps greater, but the number of rejections is also exponentially greater. And so that if you're an average Gen Z person, you are experiencing such an astronomical number of rejections in these formative years of your life, and that can be psychologically difficult or damaging. Why higher now than before? So for dating, the first example is like the rise of dating apps and algorithms and all things like that mean that it's just an unrelenting parade of rejection. You know, there's just more swipes that aren't going to work out, more dates that end up with ghosting, more situationships or just talking that never turn into an actual date. Or I mean, they have an example here of like a typical Zoomer on the apps is getting rejected by and rejecting more prospective partners in a week than the typical married boomer has in their entire life. And I think that's true. There is some upside to it, right? Which you have more opportunity, more chances to find a person that, I don't know, matches your specific thing, interest. But it also like leads to an inability to commit. It leads to a feeling of wanting to protect yourself because rejection hurts. One of the psychological things that's talked throughout this whole article, they interview a lot of people. And this is long. This is a long, you know, this goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on, right? One thing they talk about a lot is the feeling of like checking out. Checking out maybe is the wrong word. It's like the idea of you don't let yourself get too attached to anything. So in terms of like, you don't want to get too excited about applying for a job or a college or a date because you have to protect yourself from the idea that it can go wrong. You have to really keep your hope from ever getting up. You have to kind of disassociate or, I don't know, check out. You know, if it were one of these three things, maybe that would be one aspect. Because it's happening in all three aspects at a formative time, over and over again, you hear in this article is people talking about how it affects them mentally. And some of them, there's a psychologist in here I wish I could find, but the psychologist is like, some of them say they're getting really good at dealing with rejection, like they don't fucking care, like they're toughened up by it. But really, it just seems like they're checking out or disassociating. You know, their idea of not caring and being strong is just like having no hope or passion about it. You know, it's like more cope than it. Yeah, it's like being real pessimistic and real. You know, that's not really the psychologist in here is like that's not really a solution. That's like a painful adjustment. That's not. You haven't solved the problem. You've reduced the short-term pain, but you haven't solved it. And so I just I'm not trying to like bring anyone down here. I'm not trying to like darken the mood. If anything, I think this could be an interesting, more positive discussion to hear that this is not something that only you is going through. But it is fascinating. And I want to say in response to your original question that I think it was just easier. No one has an easy as fucking boomers, legitimately, where it's like walk in and, you know, hand them a resume and you get a job and walk out. I took a year and a half. I was fucking struggling. But like just the scale of the rejections now is crazy. You know, the idea of like people putting in hundreds, 300, 400, 800, some people in this article are 1,000 plus job applications. You have to deal with hundreds of letdowns, you know? It's fucking exhausting. It's just exhausting. Human beings are not like super built for that. And then, you know, the way they do it, again, we can talk about all three parts of this, but the job part is like, yeah, look. You don't have any ability to get feedback. It feels like being in a hedge maze and there's probably a path through. And I agree, there probably is a path through. I mean, some people are finding ways through, but it's harder. And you feel like you keep running into walls and you're like, man, if I could just talk to the person who built this. I worked so hard for 4 years and I built this great network and support system. Now I'm just sending applications into the void. Yeah, this idea of like empty one-way communication where you're just fucking throwing out applications and you have no feedback, no human to talk to. No, it's been so frustrating. We're questioning all our life choices and it's just depressing. Yeah, I just would say you're not alone, and I don't think it's something about you're doing wrong. Not there's like different strategies you can apply. I'm sure there are to like increase your chances, but it's like I don't think this generation's any different. It's not like they're suddenly worse at applying for jobs or like less ambitious or whatever. I think it's just difficult. It's just more difficult. And then dealing with parents and other people who can't understand. Yeah, again, that's one thing why I think this is like a good thing to talk about. Maybe Zoomers all generally understand this, but I think a lot of other generations, possibly millennials too, but they don't understand. They don't understand how different it is. 30 years, massively different, but even 10 years ago, dramatically different. It's changing so fast. I think this for everything. I think it's for almost every field, but post-COVID is different in almost everything. There's just no analog. There's no comparison. Post-COVID is so different in all these aspects of life that if you haven't already got certain things set up or settled, you can't get advice very easily because no one's gone through it. That same unique thing. Animation director here, having fresh students visit us and asking for jobs while I see my friends getting fired left and right is rough. You want to reassure them and tell them it's going to be okay. You also want to help your inner circle first. Yeah, I mean, this is there's just so many layoffs, and especially the good white collar jobs, that the market is flooded with people that have experience. So if you're a new grad without experience, it's like, I won't say never, but in a long time, it hasn't been this tough to compete. It's just hard. There's fewer opportunities and there's more competition. Job market so bad I started following my dreams. One unique sign that, we could be entering into something like a recession or something, or at least a recessionary job environment, is that the number of law school applications and graduate school applications has skyrocketed. It's up 20%. Georgetown University Law Center received 14,000 applications to fill 650 spots. University of Michigan Law School has more applications than any point in its 166 years of existence. When Michigan Law's admissions dean, Sarah, shared the numbers with faculty members, the whole room gasped. So it's a sign of people are just not finding opportunities in the job market, so they're going back to school. But then the school opportunities are being overwhelmed with applications. So it's just tough is my takeaway, is that it's challenging and it can impact your self-esteem. Getting internships for me was so easy when interest rates were low. When they raised it and I graduated, I had to send 800 apps to get a real job. Yeah, again, there's just a time. The people I talk to the most about this in real life are coders. Because, from my time at Twitch and in NVIDIA, but mostly Twitch because NVIDIA people don't leave. I'm the only person to ever quit NVIDIA. I'll be honest with you. I know 0 people that have quit NVIDIA, but the Twitch people who have quit, they're just telling me how they have more experience than ever and the job market is harder than ever. They've been through times where it's easy, where it's recruiters are hitting them up on LinkedIn. I've been interviewing for the past 3 months, and the interviews where I've made the most progress have been referrals. Building a network is so much more important these days, especially as people lose social skills over time. The overall point of this discussion is to say you're not really doing anything wrong. Things have measurably gotten harder. But I think one of the strategies is referrals. Already, even when I was applying for jobs, referrals were the way in, but now it's astronomically more important. Anyone who can refer you or get you a connection or get a foot in the door, it's not bad of you to ask. It is smart of you to ask. Do it in a measured way, try not to be fucking cringe or whatever, but to stand up for yourself and ask for that opportunity, because that is how you get your foot in and then show what you can do. Don't let yourself anxiety talk yourself out of asking. And again, I'll say, this is my one example. So I met my boss at Twitch. I was doing writing for Team Liquid at the League of Legends World Finals, and I was in the press room, and I met this guy, and we made a small connection, and he kind of offhandedly gave me his email, and I sent him kind of a cover letter / pitch / my history talking about, trying to get an opportunity at Twitch, and he ghosted me. He did not answer. He did not send a response. Well, okay, never mind. I got a response. I got an auto response. It was Ben's not available or whatever. And I thought about shrinking into a ball and not sending another message. And then I wrote another message and I sent it again. I don't know, 4 days later. I just did it again. I didn't want to spam, but I did it again. I was just hey, I really think we had a good discussion at the thing, and I would want to make sure I just caught him at a better time. It was really offhanded. He clearly just had some time, and the email popped in and he was yeah, let's talk or whatever. And then he had a short call. He gave me a short call. And I just kind of kept following up on it and hounding on it. And I'm not saying that'll work every time, and it was definitely easier then. But I'm just saying, if you let your anxiety talk you out of something, you don't really have anything to lose. The worst that can happen is like this person thinking you're too overzealous, and that's not a bad thing to be when you're trying to get a job. So I guess I would just say I would keep that in mind. Grad school the past 3 semesters, and I've seen it change even in last year, of you can never use ChatGPT to we know you use it, so just mark where you do. It's insane. Yeah, I mean, listen, they're trying to adapt. ChatGPT is so tough for me to talk about because the standard default response someone might give, especially if they're caught using it, would be like, well, you gonna ban calculators? It's like, it's a tool. We're going to use the tool. And there's a lot of truth to that. But because it offloads your brain ever having to turn on, it's like you're atrophying. It's like your brain is literally, it's atrophying. And if you want to know what that means, look it up on ChatGPT. So it's just tougher. It's just tougher to fully wrap your brain around. I just got my first job after 9 months and 60+ interviews. Let's fucking go! Biomagna, fucking congrats. Dude, that first W-2 is big. The first W-2 job, it's big, dude. I swear to God, I remember when I got the call and I negotiated against myself. I got the worst possible salary. I got the worst, probably the lowest salary they ever offered at Twitch. I was nervous. I did a bad, but once they said I had that job, I said, thank you. I tried to keep it together on the phone. I hung up the phone. I screamed, yeah! And then I ran around the house. Because I wanted to get out of my parents' house so bad. I ran around in circles. I was fucking losing it. I mean, I fucking popped off. So I'm happy for you, bro. Legitimately, super happy for you. I'm a teacher trying to get out because education is such a brutally rough place currently. And it's been incredibly tough to pivot out of education. I got one interview, got offered the job, signed the offer letter, and the executive had a meeting and said they couldn't afford me anymore. That fucking sucks. Dude, I've heard about this more often too. Maybe some of you experience this, especially with internships. There's like a huge rise in companies rescinding internships, especially paid ones, where like they make the offer and you think you're getting a paid internship and then they're fucking rescinding it. They're pulling them all back. That's crazy. People plan their life and their future and they stop applying for other things, and rejection is one thing, but making the offer then rescinding it is a fucking heinous line. It's so egregiously offensive. Like, you're really, really fucking over a person when you do that. It honestly should have a punishment. There should be a string attached to it, because making an offer to someone should be binding in some way, where you owe them something. Some good faith binding. Yeah, something where it's like if they break it, they have to compensate you in some way, because you've lost opportunity because you thought the job was yours. I used Claude and pressed record as the interview asked coding questions, and then I rewrote what it gave me. You're the problem! Armo, you're the problem. That's what everyone's talking about. It's so funny because these strategies, they can work, right? But they're only gonna work right now. Like, there's such a small, tiny window where it might work. You might get caught doing it, instant lose. But like, because everyone's trying this shit, it's like eroding all the systems that used to work to figure out and find human talent. And it's just weird. It's just such a weird time, man. Bitcoin fixes all of this. Really? Bitcoin fixes dating, colleges, and jobs? That's fucking sick. I didn't know that. All of Gen Z's problems could be solved by perhaps selling a kidney and investing in Bitcoin. By reading the Satoshi white paper, it hurts having a friend that generally thinks like this. Look at this guy bragging about having friends. You know, there's some people in here that would kill to have a friend that is into crypto. That's annoying them with crypto talk. All right, Pei Tong. So think about that. Like, for example, I've got stupid ass fucking Aiden telling me to invest in CSGO knives every day. Do I think it's annoying? Yes. Do I appreciate him as a man? Yes. I'm glad I have this friend who's constantly telling me about his fucking stupid ass CSGO knife investment. People are role-playing friendships with ChatGPT. You know what's so interesting? So I think ChatGPT is actually a truly incredible learning tool. And I even think in like a Nathan Fielder audition kind of way, even using it to practice talking could even be useful. I don't even think that's a problem. The biggest concern with this for me is that the friendship you have with ChatGPT is gonna be better than a human could provide. Because real humans aren't so attentive to everything you've ever said. They don't remember all your little fucking details. They don't validate everything you say. They don't constantly go, wow, you're so right. I never thought about it like that. They don't make you feel so good about every edge case thought you have. But AI does do that. And so AI is more comfortable. It's just significantly more comfortable to talk to on these things, whereas humans are messy and difficult. And I that's my biggest worry, is not that people are getting some practice or trying something, is that they won't enjoy talking to humans because they don't make them feel as comfortable or easy. It's a little bit too agreeable. It annoys me so much when the AI is agreeing with everything I say. I need conflict and yeah, I hate it whenever I put on ChatGPT voice and I'm like, debate me on, I don't know, Japanese government bonds or something. That's a real thing I've done. And then I try to have it create a prompt question, and then I take a stance and I want to hear it like poke holes in it or whatever. And it's kind of useful, but it always is so nice. It always is like, well, that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. And I'm like, if it's wrong, if this thing is wrong, can call it dumb.